Howdy folks, MaximumRD here, and I am actually doing a video response to one Alan Stewart, Mamemeister. He asked the question, what game genres are your favorite and least favorite, and why? So I will begin with favorite, and I will say my answer to anyone who knows me to both questions won't be too surprising. But anyways, my favorite is survival horror. I just love it. I just love it, love it, love it. Cannot get enough of it. Can you classify those as survival horror? I know all those videos that PewDiePie does, guys like him and Markiplier and all that stuff like that. I guess technically they are survival horror. A lot of them are, but it seems to be this overly saturated genre now. It's really weird because I don't it's really weird including those games. It's like they're just cranking them out. They're cranking out these cut and paste games now that all seem to be based on the Slender Man. You know, like ever since that Slender Man game came out, that first person perspective where you go around and maybe find something and whatever, do a few puzzles and have something pop out and jump scare you. Yeah, it's been done to death now, and I kind of don't like that because it's much more seems to be the case of quantity over quality right now. I'm not saying there aren't good ones, and I'm not saying there aren't ones that'll make you jump or whatever, but they're not. They just give me that feeling of cashing in on what's currently popular right now. It's just like everyone's producing them, every indie developer who, you know, trying to get recognition now, so they're all jumping on that one genre right now. And yeah, it's really, I think, in my opinion, a case of quantity over quality. So because when I say that survival horror games are my personal favorite genre, my mind automatically goes back to, you know, Alone in the Dark, the original first Resident Evil on PlayStation, the first Silent Hill game, and you know, Silent Hill 2 was amazing on PlayStation 2, an amazing sequel. Resident Evil 2, come on, it was Resident Evil just cranked up on steroids. You know, 2 discs, one for each character. That was just amazing. And you know, again, pioneers like Alone in the Dark, the original on the PC and 3DO, and those games just, that was the creation of a new genre and something that I didn't think could exist. Having grown up loving gothic horror, you know, monsters and just very atmospheric type films, and loving the anything that had that atmosphere, from B movies to the Hammer films, the Draculas, Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing, all that. I never believed that kind of atmosphere and just presence could be portrayed in a video game. Now, unfortunately, I had not experienced Alone in the Dark when it first debuted. I would have to say my first real encounter with the survival horror genre was probably the first Resident Evil on the original PlayStation. And I knew it was my type of game. You know, I looked at the back cover of the game packaging, brought it home. I think I rented it from someplace, and brought it home, shoved it in my PlayStation, and like many of you, was a little taken aback by the tank controls that many people hate. But if you took the time to adapt to them and get used to it, you realize that, hey, this game's great. And of course, with that first game, from the static backgrounds, it was all about the angles, and as you were creeping up from one screen to the next, you would be positioned within a certain angle. So that was actually led to part of the atmosphere and part of that feeling of foreboding, that you couldn't really just turn in any direction or immediately get out of a situation or anything like that. I think that kind of added to the tension. And of course, having to monitor your supply of weapons and the plants for health reasons, and if you were to get poisoned and things like that. Resource management. Just loved it. I would say that first Resident Evil game really made me believe that, first of all, a game could be scary, and second of all, that a game could have that kind of atmosphere that was the same as a movie. With Resident Evil and the voice acting, very much a B movie, but still, just the fact that it could suck you in like that and pull you in. And ever since that first Resident Evil game, I've just been pulled in, and I love it. And then we moved on to Silent Hill. Silent Hill, what I loved about it, Konami, of course, amazing soundtrack. But I love the atmosphere of that game. It was just so different. It's been said that if Resident Evil is the Night of the Living Dead of games, if you compare it to movies, if it was the Night of the Living Dead or whatever, your basic zombie flick, then the Silent Hill series is your Omen or Exorcist of video games. And I see that because it's a lot more slower paced, but is just that sense of dread that just keeps you playing through, very tense. At any moment you don't know what's going to happen next. So I like those two styles of games. Now, like I said, with the onslaught of so many of these so-called survival horror games, that are played, people do playthroughs, and apparently everyone's a wimp on everyone who plays them. Like, okay, I know it's played up, and I know people overdo it, and I'm sure some of the people playing really are that scared of the game, but I'm pretty sure it's played up in most cases. I don't think I'm that desensitized to them that it's just me. But, it's all, again, those ones aren't so much atmosphere as they are just jump scares. It's just, and, a lot of movies like that are today are like that now too, just jump scares. It's not real tension, it's not real foreboding or sense of dread or atmosphere. It's just, oh, look, it's shaky cam, we're running around, something jumps in front of me, like I don't really go for those jump scares. I'd rather a tense, atmospheric survival horror game anytime. Anyways, yeah, so that's my favorite genre of games. Those are my points on it as to why. So now moving to my least favorite genre, because I could talk forever about my favorite genre, so I better dedicate some time to my least favorite genre. And my least favorite, again, is something most people will know and will be of shock to some people who don't know me so well, and to be surprised to hear. But yeah, also RPGs. But I want to be specific here. Turn-based RPGs. It seems to be such a broad definition of what is an RPG. Some will go as far as to say that every game is an RPG because you're playing a role, you're playing a character, right? But you know what I mean when I'm talking about RPG. And I'm talking about everything from the Ultima series to, Dungeons and Dragons and all those games, from the early computer games to early console games. Typically, set in the universe of, well, mythological Dungeons and Dragons, wizards, sorcery, giants, hobbits, yeah, all those kind of things, whatever. And it's weird that it's a genre that not only do I not like, but I actually go as far as to say that I dislike, because I like the sum of all the parts. Like, I love the fantasy genre. I love fantasy movies. I love the Dungeons and Dragons and Wizards and Warriors and all those things, trolls and you name it. I love all that stuff. I loved all those movies growing up. As a kid, I drew those kind of pictures. But, you know, I think part of the problem was, well, you know, I'm very introverted, so I was not really part of the D&D crowd, you know, the original D&D roll the dice and stats on paper and all that stuff like that. So I didn't really have that experience or fondness of it. I was never really a board games guy in general. So yeah, I didn't get much into D&D. I played once with, or maybe a couple times with my buddy Al, and he was the dungeon master, and he was crazy. He made for interesting games, for sure. But I didn't really clue into it, you know. I mean, I even liked, you know, 70s and 80s TV movies about D&D. You know, I liked those cheap, cheesy TV movies about the evils of D&D and that whole fantasy mystical world. I loved all that stuff. Didn't really read the books. Dragonlance, that's supposed to be a popular series, I think. The comics, I didn't really read comics, but I appreciated the artwork. Well, yeah, some good fantasy artwork to appreciate. I loved it in general, but for me, it just did nothing for me in video games. So yeah, again, I want to be specific. Turn-based RPGs. I don't like those. And I've tried the cream of the crop, the best, supposedly the best ones. It's that turn-based aspect that just doesn't do it for me. I think no matter what, you're playing a game, whether it's, you know, 8-bit graphics, 16-bit graphics, whatever, you know it's a game. It's not like I'm fooled. I realize I'm playing a game. But even more so when I play turn-based fighting, I feel more that I'm pulled out of the situation. I'm pulled away from the environment or the world of the game. And I know that sounds strange to some people, but to me, you know, a game I loved, and I guess it's kind of in the RPG, well, I guess it's action, right? It's an action game. It's an adventure game. It's an adventure game with action elements. So Zelda, right? 8-bit Nintendo. Loved it. Freaking loved it. It had hit points, it had inventory, but it was all pretty much managed by the game, for the most part. Certainly the hit points were, if you got hit, you took damage, your hit points went down, whatever. Your heart containers, however you want to phrase it, it's the same thing, right? And I with turn-based, I think what gets me with it is like, you know, you hit your opponent, then you wait to see what's the result. Positive result, negative result, no result. Wait. Opponent strikes. See the result. What's the result? I don't know. You know, like, just let me slash the guy. You know, just let him slash me. Just let him shoot an arrow at me. Let him run from me, or let me run from him if I choose to. To me, that's more realistic, an encounter. And anyways, I get it, because, as I said, the whole turn-based type of gameplay is derived from Dungeons and Dragons and those role-playing board games and roll the dice type thing. So it comes from that. I understand it. So maybe because I wasn't really a fan of that, I wasn't a fan of turn-based role-playing games. So again, the original 8-bit Zelda for me was like a breath of fresh air. You know, everything was pretty much handled, and everything is in real time. That's what I loved about it, real time. And once I started playing real time adventure games, or whatever, if you want to call them role-playing games, then those are the games I liked. Then after that, more than ever, I saw no point in turn-based games. So, yeah, so that's the genre I don't like. Turn-based role-playing. Role-playing in general, again, outside of adventure, real-time action games, I don't really like them. I just don't, they don't do much for me. You know, Final Fantasy, I have no interest in that. You know, I just don't. And PlayStation, computer, consoles, various consoles, handhelds, I've tried the variety, the so-called cream of the crop, the best of the best. So, and I'm sure I will again, you know. A month from now, a year from now, I'll try the next big so-called hit, and I'll prove to myself again. And I'm not going in with a closed mind. I'm trying to convince myself that there's something to this, but because I believe, I honestly have always believed in, don't say you don't like something that you haven't tried and given your full, you know, attention to and a good, honest try before you say you don't like it. So I can honestly say I don't like the genre, RPGs. I guess I could also throw in there MMOs, but I'm not a big online guy in general. Again, big surprise. So I like the one-player adventure, one-player games. Again, that's probably why, as I said, with survival horror, I sunk into those worlds, just me and the world, the environment. What about, I don't know, online survival horror game? Might be up for that. I'd certainly give it a go. Although, I haven't much. I'm not a big online guy, but we'll see. Who knows? That might change in the future. I don't see role-playing games changing in the future for me, other than being in the holodeck. But then, that better be real-time and not turn-based, because that would just be crazy. Okay, so that's it. That's my answer, my long-winded, as usual, answer. Just thought I'd connect here with Mr. Alan Stewart, Mamemeister, and answer the question. So please, folks, this is not my topic. This is Alan's right here. So please, of course, feel free to make your comments on my video as you wish, if you agree or don't agree. But when addressing the topic of least favorite gaming genre and why, please go to this video, see this man, listen to his video, listen to his answer, and reply, comment, possibly do a video response like I have done. Alan Stewart, Mamemeister, I'm going to leave the link to his channel and original video in my description. So please answer directly on his video. That would be awesome. Tell him hi, Rob MaximumRD sent you. And that's it. Bye for now.